If I told you that some of the strongest athletes on the planet only weigh around 65 kilos, they don't squat, they don't bench, and they look like they'd be folded by a stiff breeze, you would assume I'm talking complete nonsense, right? Well, enter rock climbers. From breaking grip strength world records without practice, to doing one-finger pull-ups, to casually completing the world's toughest triathlon without any practice whatsoever, it's pretty clear that climbers are some of the strongest and most versatile athletes on the planet. So what's going on here? Is it the climbing itself that makes them so strong, coordinated, and well-rounded, or is it the mental resilience and the borderline insanity required to reach the top level? Well, a perfect example of this sheer athleticism is my countryman Magnus Midtbø.
Jeg har det ganske bra.
Now, Magnus is a former professional climber who retired from competitions back in 2017, and he now runs one of the biggest fitness-focused YouTube channels in the world. And what makes him so interesting is that he looks like a relatively normal, very fit guy until you see him perform. Let's start with the most obvious one, his grip strength. Despite only weighing around 70 kilos and standing roughly at 5'8", Magnus has absolutely ridiculous grip strength for his size. His most famous feat is probably his one-finger pull-up, which is already insane, but he's also demonstrated things like pinch gripping over 90 kilos and going head-to-head with guys twice his size, like Larry Wheels, in certain grip challenges. And the important thing here is that he isn't just strong, it's where he is strong. Climbers don't usually train with barbells, thick handles, or even neutral wrist positions. They tend to load individual fingers, often in extensions or sometimes on weird edges that are thinner than a credit card. And they do it for time. Or they aim to produce a lot of force and leverage their bodies while barely holding on. That means massive tendon stress, extreme joint angles, and often very little mechanical advantage, which are the exact positions that most athletes never train, and that if you're aiming for muscle hypertrophy, most will try to avoid. So why are climbers so strong? Well, to become an elite climber, you need a very specific combination of traits. First, you need some insane total body coordination. They are constantly reaching, twisting, flagging, kicking, and sometimes even jumping, all while trying to keep your center of mass in the right place. Secondly, you need tremendous grip strength at a wide range of angles, combined with extreme local muscle endurance. Many climbers can easily hang on to ledges the size of a credit card, not even for a second, but repeatedly while they visualize what step to take next. And third, you need great movement efficiency. Climbing isn't exactly about brute force, and I can tell you from personal experience that strength alone isn't going to make you a good climber. It's usually a combination of foresight, planning ahead, and choosing movements that waste as little energy as possible. And that also makes a lot of climbers incredibly fast problem solvers. Now obviously, climbers are gonna be strong at pulling, because they're essentially doing pull-ups from every angle imaginable. They become extremely strong at pulling from different angles as well. And that's why Magnus has been able to keep up with elite level strength athletes like Larry Wheels on pull downs, despite not really training for them specifically. And because climbers tend to end up in constantly awkward, unstable positions, they also develop tremendous core strength. Not just for like crunches, sit-ups, or whatever else, but actual full body tension and control. And that carries over to almost any sport and activity to some degree. So even though climbers are highly specialized at moving up a wall, the byproduct is that they end up being surprisingly well-rounded athletes overall. Now, if you test a climber on, say, the powerlifts, they will get smoked by pretty much any and every trained athlete, especially strength athletes. But if you test them on grip strength, endurance, bodyweight movements, just coordination, or hanging from a bar for as long as possible, they might outperform all of the other athletes in the world. And in certain hanging and pulling tasks, they can even rival or straight up outperform elite level gymnasts. And that's also why so many top-level calisthenics athletes, grip specialists, or even straight curlers tend to have a background in climbing. So what actually makes their training so much different from that of a gym bro or just a traditional strength athlete? Well, a big part of it comes down to neural adaptations. Climbing involves a tremendous variety of movement, positions, and force direction, and by simply practicing the sport, climbers become incredibly skilled at producing force from awkward positions and maintaining that under fatigue. Of course, depending on the style of climbing and the duration of the climb itself. They don't just get stronger muscles, they improve how efficiently the nervous system activates those muscles, how well their movements are coordinated, and how stiff and responsive their tendons become, which in turn produces better performance outcomes without any gain in lean contractile tissue necessarily. And because much of the climbing strength part is isometric and in highly specific positions, it allows climbers to get really strong without necessarily gaining a lot of muscle. And if they do, the muscle gains are usually more specific than if you just did regular strength training. Climbing also isn't ideal for building muscle size. It relies really heavily on body weight, and any extra mass is usually a disadvantage, which in turn requires you to become even stronger if you want to keep up. And that's why most climbers stay relatively light. Their legs in particular usually aren't as strong as any other athlete, as they simply don't require it. And any unnecessary weight is unwanted. But despite that, they are often good at a lot of things. Magnus, for example, competed in the Norseman, considered one of the hardest triathlons on planet Earth, and he performed extremely well with very little specific preparation. Now I gotta say, Magnus isn't representative of every climber. He is freakishly athletic even by climbing standards. But his performances do make sense when you consider what climbing at a high level really demands. Movement efficiency, endurance, explosiveness, coordination, and maximal strength in very uncomfortable and awkward positions, on top of the mental resilience to discomfort. So to quickly sum it up, how can climbers be so strong while looking so small in comparison to other strength athletes? Well, because strength isn't just about muscle mass, even though that's a primary driver of strength, but in a sport where any additional weight can be a burden, climbers build strength through neural efficiency, tendon stiffness, coordination, and force production in positions that most people just never train. They get very strong very efficiently without carrying any unnecessary weight. And that's why guys like Magnus might not be able to deadlift, say, 5 plates. Heck, he might only be able to deadlift 3 plates, but he could also probably deadlift that with 2 fingers.
You're too good for this world.
And that's why many climbers don't just look strong in their own sport. They end up strong in a way that breaks our normal intuition about strength and what it looks like, and that's why I think that climbing, bouldering, or any activity where you use your body weight, which is still muscularly challenging and fun, is one of the best ways to be physically active. So if you have a local bouldering gym or something like that, consider checking it out, and maybe you'll enjoy it a lot more than you think. But with that, I say thank you all so much for watching, and if you want coaching by me and my team for sport performance, fat loss, strength or muscle gain, check out the form linked in the description. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments on what topics I should cover next, and as always, I'll see you all next time.